15 years I'm working. My passion is to interact with people, more customers, take trainings whenever to find time, because my current role works on solution based. That is like working on the data center, build a new data center, or working on the existing data center, bring new products, test them, bring better standards for the company. That standard is being followed for the infrastructure, that is for your data center solutions. So for the infrastructure operations, I lead with the team, and also we design it, we implement, we test. When there is certain projects for migration, we work on migrations. So for everything, we bring standard for a company. So from the standard, we want to stick with that. Okay, if a company stick with the standard, then obviously if you see that, you can avoid flaws. Okay, that's my major role is. And if we try to bring a product, we need to justify, yes, we can use this product for certain applications. So in that, I do have experience in networking. Obviously, we need to have experience in networking. Without network, you can't push any data. That is like read and write is not going to get into your data center. I have a good idea on networking, so virtualization. Then I work on storage, backup, and cloud. It's all together a data center I work. In that, I do have majorly I work on server virtualization and storage. I do have some knowledge on different product vendors like VMware, corely on VMware, then some in server virtualization, I'm saying that. Then I work on some open source tools in storage, NetApp, EMC, the other products like Fuse Storage, HP. Now at present, I don't have anything on my client side, so my client is an enterprise level company. They majorly put a purchase on. We recommend only EMC and NetApp for our standards. Backup and cloud, that's okay, but because the training is more on the NetApp, I believe. So everyone want to learn NetApp. That's why we are here. So we'll speak more on NetApp. The basic training prerequisite is if you do have Linux and networking knowledge, yes, you can do NetApp. And if you ask me why Linux, why networking, because when you get into NetApp storage, you need to have some Linux knowledge, because I prefer always using CLI commands. That is like you put the instruction as a command and you execute and you do your job. And if you ask me, NetApp doesn't have, or it won't support any GUI based, yes, it does it. So I always, if you are very new to NetApp, then I'll ask you to work on GUI to get the terminology, because there are new terms will be coming into your NetApp. When you learn NetApp, you learn new things. So when you work on GUI, you'll get familiar with the terminology. Then you can use the CLI. That will be a better option. So if you know Linux, it's very good, because NetApp also, the base of the NetApp operating system comes from the Unix platform. So Linux and Unix, I don't make any difference, comes from the Unix platform. That's the reason if you know basic of Linux and networking, it'd be really good, because networking is key, because NetApp is a unified model. So where, if you see that, you will be getting into a NAS, where in the NAS based, if you see that you use your TCP protocol, when you get into your SAN based, you need to use an FCP protocol. Obviously, those are networking protocols. So knowing networking, it is a benefit. So because when I speak about NetApp, when I get into a NAS, I'll be speaking about VLAN, I'll be speaking about port grouping. A couple of things will be more on networking side. That's the reason, because if you're very new even to networking and you don't know what does that mean, IP is, what is TCP, then it's a big deal actually. So IP and all, you must be knowing it. Some basic of networking, you have to know about it. If you're very new to the data center part, I can give an overview of the data center, then you can understand more on it. So most probably people who try to attend my training, they must be knowing about data center. Otherwise, I can give a quick review. So lab requirement, if you do have your own system, I can give all the images to you. So I can prepare a good lab for you, so where you can practice after the training or after you complete the training also. For that, minimum required is you need to have an i5 and 8 gig of RAM. That's the minimum requirement. Why I'm saying minimum? Because if you want to test at least with one node cluster, because NetApp today, we speak about NetApp today, operating system, what we use in NetApp is an ONTAP operating system. The ONTAP operating system corely needs of, when you put the simulation, corely it needs of 5.1 gig for just one node. So minimum is 8 gig minimum, but maximum if you do have 16 gig of RAM, you can do really well. But if in case you say like don't have 8 gig or 16 gig, I do have 4 gig, can I do something or not? Yes, NetApp gives you hands-on lab for free. You can use it, but all you need to do is like you need to have an NetApp account. If you ask me how do I get it, so all you need to do is like if you're working in a company, you have to register with your company email ID. If you register it, if you get a proper access, you can get the hands-on lab. The hands-on lab comes with a latest version, not the current version. It's the latest version you have it. So you can thoroughly work on the lab. So whatever we are going to learn in NetApp, you can thoroughly work on it. What you're going to learn in this training. So Obviously, when you get into the training, you'll be learning about NetApp product overview. Overview in the sense, I'm not just going to say, hey, these are the series or models are available. So you'll be learning about different products. It's not about just saying about, for example, if I say about FAS series, it's not about only a FAS series. So what are the different products in NetApp do have it? Only the storage, how it gets into what are the products it's supported in the cloud base, everything will be reviewing in the NetApp product overview. We'll get into the hardware architecture. There you will need to understand more on the hardware architecture, like, so when you do have a controller, how do you do looping structure with your disk shelf, that is what called in NetApp. Then how you go with an high availability in the hardware architecture, how your because NetApp speaks more on cluster, so how the hardware architecture will go on the cluster service. The hardware architecture it's a pretty lengthier one, but you will be having a lot of learning in it, because so a lot of learning in it. Also, I'll bring some standards. If you're trying to go with a rack and stack of your hardware architecture, so how you're going to do it, what are the standards you have to follow, what are the recommendations is given by NetApp, everything you learn the hardware architecture. So when we get into the software architecture, you will be learning about how the ONTAP operating system, that is your NetApp, deals with majorly with ONTAP operating system. The ONTAP operating system, how it's going to do a read and write within your storage box. Then on using your read and write, how the older architecture works and the new architecture work, that is called as a cluster service architecture works, that will be explained later. I'll be getting into cluster management, because today NetApp, the newer version, or from it's like last 2 years, if you see that, they majorly concentrate on cluster service. So this cluster service is not going to deal with only one storage box. It's going to be having 24, that is like 24 controllers or 24 nodes within a single cluster service. So how your cluster management will work in the software architecture, you will also learn about cluster management service. So if you do have 10 nodes together, how your cluster service will work there. So how your master secondary controllers will work. The clear picture will be given there. Then we'll get into the physical and logical networking. Whenever you buy a storage box, so you'll be having a lot of ports. Like, so obviously there will be a lot of ports, and you'll be saying like, no, storage means we do have backend and front-end port. But backend port you use only for connection between a controller to the shell. When you get into a front-end port, there are different ports. That is like in front-end you use ports for different purposes, for customer connection, administration, and moreover, when you use different protocols, front-end ports will be different, because NAS it uses a 10 gig port, FCs use a 16 gig port. You need to understand how we use these ports, how we can bring redundancy in your physical port when we try to group the ports for better bandwidth, load balancing, everything you learn in your physical. Then we'll get into logical networking, where it is more interesting one. So you will learn plenty of things in logical networking. So today NetApp deals. So when you get into NetApp, I can say it is a fully virtualized storage box. The reason why I'm saying this word fully virtualized storage box, because when a customer want to access a space in a storage box, okay, every customer will feel like, okay, I'm getting a dedicated storage box. Okay, but that is not true, because when you see in the background, NetApp is going to create a virtual storage box and a virtual interface. So everything is going to be virtual there, and a logical space there. So if you see that it's a fully virtualized storage box, which is going to make sure for every customer, it's going to give some dedicated space, and it makes the customer very comfortable, feeling that they are going to have a dedicated storage box, but that's not true. But background, if you see that the storage box is fully virtualized, that's your logical. So the logical network will be part of it. Then we'll get into logical storage, where we will start to learn about NetApp, how we are going to create a space that do have an hierarchy. So when you create a space that do have an hierarchy of creating the space, how we are going to get that hierarchy, we are going to learn about it. It's as simple like when you do have hundreds of disks, so I'm not going to get 1 or 2 disks for a customer to get access of. So that is not possible. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to group the number of disks to get a usable space. That logical space is being given for the customer to get access. So how efficiently we are going to use that space. So plenty of things to be learned on your logical storage. And one more thing I can add up here is NetApp can provide a one space of 20 petabyte of size. So what I'm trying to say is like, you get one. So we speak about GB, then 1024 GB is your TB, then 1024 TB is 1 petabyte. So now if you see that NetApp says we can provide a space of 20 petabyte of size. We can get one space of 20 petabyte of size. How that is being achieved. That we learn about in logical storage. Then later we'll get into NAS and SAN based protocol. and we'll see that because we have already looked into the networking, then the logical storage. Now your storage box is ready for use. That is like when you buy a storage box, you rack and stack it. That is your hardware architecture. Once it's been rack and stacked, then you need to make sure you need to have a physical network to connect the storage box into your network where the servers can access it. So that's your physical logical network. Once that has been done, you start creating a logical storage. That is, you create a space. So once everything is, that's your space is ready, then you have to use a certain protocol, NAS-based protocol or SAN-based protocol. Then you need to provide access to the customer, end user, customer or the servers to get use of the space. There we use NAS or SAN. Once we are done with it, we need to see that how we can protect the data on your storage box. There we will be learning about snapshot, how the NetApp snapshot is different from the other snapshots. So that we will learn and we'll see that how the NetApp will make a quick restoration of the data. Once we are done with it, using the snapshot, because NetApp uses snapshot for replication. Maybe if you're trying to do a replication within a controller, within a storage box, or if you're trying to do a replication between site to site, how we are going to do it. So we will be learning about the replication. Later, one last module, what we are going to do is like administration. So what are the best practice we have to follow when we are being a storage administrator? The next is like when a system gets into a issue, how we can troubleshoot, looking into the performance. Then if you're planning for an upgrade, it's like on your NetApp storage box, if you're planning for an upgrade, how do you do an upgrade? What are the best practice for that? Majorly, we see that now many companies, they have to migrate from the older version to the new version. 7 mode to C mode, how do you do a migration? So that also I'll be to share the experience on it, maybe few documents on it. So you will be getting more idea on it. So this is what will be covered in the NetApp training. So if you do have seen the curriculum or the course content, maybe I have given just only the gist. That is just like a headline news. I just given the headline. If you run through your curriculum, everything is out here. This is plenty of things to be covered here. The lab, if you see that this is just a test purpose, we see that this is my workstation because I was doing some tests, but this is not my actual lab. I do have another system where I connect remotely or I can get login into that. So in this, I was testing the recent version 9.7. In ONTAP, the recent version is 9.7. So I was doing a test purpose here. We can work around on the different versions, or if you want to go with the latest version, we can work on it. That's not a problem. Or you have any query you want to ask me?
I don't have a personal laptop. I'm using Office One. Create a partner account and
only you need a good internet. That's more than enough. So it's like just you click on NetApp hands-on lab, but you need to have NetApp account. You're being associated with any company. You're already part of the company where they do have a NetApp team, or they do have some NetApp boxes. So what you do is like, the first thing is like you have to register with your company email ID. Okay, no one is going to offend you there, or there's not going to be any issues here. Okay, you can use your company's email ID, you register there, but when you register, it will ask for the system serial number. So use the system serial. It's like if you in your environment you do have a NetApp box, pick the serial number, register with the serial number, you get the login. Then all you need to do is like get into NetApp hands-on lab. You should be given with the username and password. You can use the username and password and you can log in it.
Yeah. So if in case I have the account, but you are about to still get the serial number of the box, and that is not in our hands, and it may not be given to us. So it is being maintained by another vendor. So we don't get the access to the serial number of the NetApp. And only thing is like we get a user account created in the NetApp as a partner in the partner portal. So in that case, how to handle this?
Hey, what I do is like if you already do have an user account, just give a try on this. If you're able to log in, it's well and good, right? If your people are interested on NetApp ONTAP training, then obviously we see that you can do the ONTAP based lab on your hands-on, which the website which I'm already there. Okay, you can log in and I can tell you which other labs you can use it. Other than that, NetApp do have different products. Even those products also available where you can use it.
Is this class good for beginner NetApp people that don't know anything about NetApp? Because I'm just our NetApp person is leaving and they asked me to get some NetApp training, and my company's going to provide some, but I just wanted to see about some additional training. Is this a good class for a beginner?
If you have some experience on a little bit basic of Linux, then if you know networking, you can do NetApp. It's not going to stop you anything here. Because when I start first class, it will be like the basic of storage I get into. Then I go to the NetApp product. So I just don't immediately run to the NetApp. But initially, I'll be speaking about what is NAS and SAN, why the NAS and SAN has come into the storage. So what makes the difference where we use NAS and SAN. Then we get into RAID. We need to see about RAID because without a RAID, you can't, because I can't get into the hardware architecture. So you need to know about RAID because storage deals with more number of hard disks. So how you can go with redundancy. So obviously, this is the beginner one. I can't give more details. For that, what I do is like I give the base knowledge, then I share some of the good documents where you can learn more of beginner and also the advanced ones. I share some documents. Initially, you need to know about what is NAS and SAN in storage. Then you have to know about RAID. So for both of this, I will be recommending SNIA or CompTIA. So these two, the vendors, here if you see that they do have beginners and the advanced one. So I'll be sharing the document of SNIA or CompTIA where you can learn about why storage, so why the NAS and SAN, what's the benefits, where you have to use NAS and SAN, and why we use RAID. If there is a server, how the space is being given, what's the standard that you have to use for it. The standard and the solution is given by SNIA and CompTIA. Then we'll get into NetApp. So for NetApp, obviously, I will be providing the student guide, the exercise guide. Once you're done with, so we will be speaking about a lot of features, what is available in different versions. Then we'll get into the different versions. We'll try to learn about that when we get into the versions, we'll be learning about the software, what is being used in NetApp. Then when we done with a lot of features, then we'll start with administration. So when you start with administration, you'll be looking into performance, troubleshooting, migration. So for everything, I'll provide documents. So it's like you'll be getting into the performance. So I'll provide documents relevant to performance, some of the internal documents of NetApp. So if someone will be very interested to learn about deduplication. That is like how to delete the duplicate data. Someone will be very interested to learn about how NetApp manage the data, read and write the data into your hard disk. Those kind of internal documents which I share. Then about migration. So there are different documents. So I do have the collection. So these, the same documents which I share in my corporate trainings too. So the same documents will be shared with you everyone. Later, I also will be sharing the images. In case you feel like, no, I want to get the installation done on my own laptop, I have to practice for my own, I'll get all the images. So images like I'll be sharing the NetApp different versions, whichever version you are looking for, I can share the different versions. Then I'll be sharing an ESXi. Then I'll be sharing your Windows where we have to create a domain. Without a domain, your NetApp will not be able to provide Windows-based share access. Yeah, these are the things which I'll be able to share with you guys.
Yeah, is it for only for basics or any? Actually, I'm already working.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is all, everything is going to be in your CMOR only. So I'm not going to deal with anything like 7.
Yeah,
it's only CMOR. That's what I'm saying it. You will be, I'll be using only 9.7. This is the latest one. You don't, even the 9.8 is not still yet released. So I'm using only 9.7.
Actually, a small query from my side. How does your training help us to get a certification from the NetApp? Because majorly I'm focusing on the, the certification from the NetApp side. So
yeah, that's
will
not NCDA, NetApp Certified Data Administrator. That's okay. One thing I can tell you is I'm a corporate trainer. Every time, whenever I go and deliver in corporate training, what has been delivered there, that is being delivered here. But moreover, in a corporate training is 5-day session. It is 8 hours per day. It's been done. So here, if you see that there's a fixed things which I will be able to cover. Here it's very flexible. So you bring a lot of questions. So I'll be airing. So there, I can't get into performance. There won't be any time for me because there is a separate training for 2 or 3 days where I do only for performance. That makes a difference. So it's a flexible training here. And whatever I'm trying to do, I'm trying to take care of NCDA. So what you're learning is it's like you will be well prepared to take NCDA exam. It's not associate level, it is administration level.
So will it be showing us the rack and stack, how we are, how we are going to connect with the controllers, with the your shelf?
See, here it's an online training. I can't use the board. Still, I don't have. This is how my training goes. So if you see that this is the disk shelf, how I'll explaining about the front panel, back panel, the front view plane. So that is your in mid plane, how your disk shelf will be connected. in rear how it is going to be. So one by one, so once you get with your disk shell, then you get into your controllers. So what are the different ports you do have, how your connection is going to be. So once you're done with your different types of controllers, then you're going with your connection, controller to a disk shell connection. Then if you see that there will be different types of connections will be there, that will be explained later. If you see that this is how your cluster architecture is going to be. It's just an illustration to make it simple. This is how it is going to be. But if you ask me in data center how to explain, I need to have this kind of architecture. That is like I do have 4 controllers, why I need to have these switches, why the connections are being connected, what is the purpose of it. Everything will be explained here. And the recommendations will be explained. So I don't have any content. So I'll be explaining you by putting it's like I'll put the content for my own. I'll do that. Later, you see that in physical data center, this is how the rack and stack. Yeah, this is your rack and stack. This is the completion of your installation in your physical, and logically we'll see later. So here, we see that these series is 6000 and the next series this is totally end of life. NetApp doesn't have any series into production. That is like they are not producing any of this series. But if you ask me why then you're trying to bring it, there are some differences. When you go with a new model, the ports are different. So I want to show that what makes the difference.
After your explanation, I know you'll use the board like to explain the concepts and everything. So later, for reference, like after the training, the student guide will have the information with all the details.
Yeah, correct. See, I'm going to give, if you're trying to attend NetApp education, if you're going with an authorized training center, that is, it will cost you. Obviously, they charge about $2,500 to $3,000, I believe. So when you take the training, they give you a student guide, present version, student guide, and the exercise guide. So same thing I'm going to give it. I'm going to give 9.6. What else you need more than that?
Will you be providing any demos for us, or is it just slide presentation?
I will say like what sort of demo you require. So whatever I'm trying to say, this is what I'm going to do. If you want to see that on lab, how it is going to work, then I can show it. Yeah. So this is my virtual platform. This is only one node what I do have here, because obviously if you see that the system what I was trying to use, my laptop, it's only 8 gig, and this image you can see it now. Click on the settings. Yeah, this single node, there's it. Yeah, it's going to take your memory almost like 5.1 gig. It's pretty high, but today it's like whenever you're trying to have any virtual machine like an OVA, obviously some of the virtual machines, even I see like when you get into Nutanix, it's going to take 16 gig. Obviously, it's going to take 5.1 gig of your memory. So this is only one node. If you do have a couple of nodes, then it's going to take a pretty big space from your memory. So here, my lab setup is...
Node you are trying to say over it's the controllers, right?
Yeah, correct. That's right. No, because in cluster, when you take cluster service, in cluster service, it's always been said as a node. It's been said as node 1, node 2, node 3. But in physical, we call as a controller. So if you see that I have installed this remotely like that, you can make a sense. It's like because it's runs on a VMware workstation where you can see it, right? It runs on a VMware workstation. So this machine you can access by means of the remote access, that is by means of SSH. So all I need to do is like I need to put my IP. So how to get the IP, because I have already configured it. So I'll put like net in show. So that means net in show, it's a short word which NetApp can understand. Net means it's network. Int means interface. Show. Okay. It's going to give me the IP, right? So here I need to find the cluster IP where I can find out 192.168.128.101. Actually, this is a console. Console means it's a direct connect to your storage box. So if you ask me in real time, you do have a console? Yes, we do have a console. So even if you take a server, if you take a switch, even if you take any hardware in a company, it will be having a console port where through the console port only the first initial installation will be happening for any of your hardware. Okay, so this is your console. On this console, there are a lot of restrictions. You can't copy and paste. You can't. If you execute a lot of commands, you can't scroll up and down. Okay, so and the console do have some of the other restrictions also. But now I want to take in remote session where I want to execute a lot of command, and also it need to be flexible for an administrator to take logs, because when you, for example, in NetApp, I want to pull logs. So what I do is like so it's very simple. More than that, I put the commands here. If you see that NetApp CLI is the best for us to be an administrator, it's the best for using CLI, because It's just like a Linux box. When you put a tab, it's going to give a set of commands. And for example, if you put a command for CL, I just give a tab, it's going to give the full command for me. Okay. But the cluster is going to have a lot of sub-commands, and the sub-commands also will be having the parameters, where if you pass the parameter and you get the result for it. So what I'm trying to say is, like, if you put a tab, you see that cluster is the main command, you do have the sub-commands. Okay. So when I put show, okay, you can see that. So this is show is in sub-command. So you do have a value, that is your parameters is your hyphen node, and it says NetApp 1. Node is your, that's what I told you, that every time I say node, the reason is the node is your NetApp 1. So I can show you that. If I put node show, it's going to show me the node name, because the cluster name is NetApp. Okay, within the cluster, the number of nodes you're trying to add, so it's just going to add the name of the cluster, and it's going to have a count. That's like 0, 1. So at present I do have only one node, so it's going to say 0, 1 for it. So that's the reason I just told you that you have commands and you do have subcommands. You can use it. You can use it wisely. It's like just like a database. You can put your query and you can get the result for it. And moreover, so this console, it's like very hard for me to use it. Even when you try to get into a console, then you'll feel that. So I'll get a remote session ready. So I'll put like 192.168.128.100 is my IP. You can see that this is my login. And what else? It's like, if you want to see that whether any aggregates are created, that is your space, anything is being created. Till now I haven't created anything. Only the root is available. Because whenever you're trying to install an operating system, the operating system itself will extract a lot of files, right? So those files, where it will go and stay, it will stay in the space where the operating system automatically creates. Like the Windows. In Windows operating system, when you install the Windows operating system, it automatically creates a C drive and it sits on it. Like that, NetApp creates its own root, and in that root, it's trying to, that is like its own system files are there. That's what is being created. And if you ask me, okay, it's good you have used CLI. How about GUI? Moreover, from 9.7 onwards, the GUI is very flexible. It's like just put the IP of your 192.168.128.100. Just give it. So get into advanced. It's a web-based GUI. You get it. So get into the proceed to unsave. That's ready to use, right? So you can put your username, the tab, some as determine that the cluster has been set up. Yeah, completed. So I'm using 100. Port looks fine. Oh, okay. It's 101. Cluster only. We have to use cluster IP for accessing it. That's it. It's ready to use. This is your dashboard about your NetApp. Even if you want to get into a classical version, you can get into, because in 9.7 you do have all these things. So when you click on storage, you can start creating a storage virtual machine volume. When we complete one by one, you get a lot of idea.
Does NetApp software come from the NetApp website if we have access?
You don't require any access. I'm going to share the image. You can, if you do have a laptop, you can install it and you can access it. You don't require any NetApp access for this.
Okay, so how do we install it? I mean, is that do we have to go to the NetApp website for that?
Yeah, if you do have access to the NetApp support site, you can log in into that. From there, I can show you that how you can download it. Otherwise, and that's what I'm saying it. Okay. I'm going to give all the images for you. So I'll be guiding you how to install on your laptop. So any questions?
How long is the course?
So first we have to see that how we are going to schedule the time, because if we're trying to go with 1 hour per day or just like 2 hours per day, it's going to take at least 4 weeks. Then we have to see moreover whether we are going to do in only on weekdays or weekends. It's all depend on that.
How will be the training in the lab connectivity? Like, will you first do the theory? I know you will do the theory, and then will you give time for us to lab, or it's up to us to do it and come back to you?
Well, always what I try to do is like I will go with, obviously I have to explain things. Then I will do the lab. Then later, then you have to try the lab. So there, if you see that, so how you are going to do the lab. So here, obviously when you go with Mindmajix, they're going to record the session and they're going to share with you. So you're going to have everyday sessions. So whatever that lab I'm trying to do, you're going to you can look into my video and you can try it. But here, when I'm done with my class and with the lab, the next day, if you're not able to cope up that, then you can try on your weekend. When we meet for the next session, I always recap with the last session. Then I say, you have anything in your lab? If you say that I'm not able to do this, then I can make you as a presenter where you're going to share your screen. Then I can look into your lab and I can fix it up. And moreover, it's like if you guys really you want to do the training from me, then I'm going to be the trainer who's going to deliver this. So we are going to have a WhatsApp group going to get created. Once you get all the confirmation from Mindmajix, the WhatsApp group will be created so you can be in touch with me. Even after the training, if you have any questions, you have anything to ask him technically, yes, I'll be able to answer it. Thank you guys. I really appreciate for the time you joined here. Okay, thanks for it. And in case we are going to meet, yeah, we meet for sure.